And now let's talk about good practices and some tips and tricks. So first of all, I mean, there's, as a DBA or as a person who's working in a DBA role, you should perform often a health check that you need to perform it often. It's either weekly or some, twice, a couple of times per week. It's up to you, but it shouldn't be less often than weekly. So it could be, I mean, it could be daily, it could be weekly, but not less often. So during this health check, among others, you should ensure that the backups are being made. So you should check the files out there, and the files are, the backup files are created, the snapshots are created. You need to ensure that the backup, the file size makes sense. So let's say if you have 100 gigabytes of data set and the backup file is 50 megabytes, then well, something is definitely not right here. So you need to investigate. You need to ensure that logs are clear from the errors. So you need to make sure that there are no problems that may cause the backup to be inconsistent or not working correctly. And you also need to, you probably should, you probably want to automate this process, and it's pretty easy to automate. Put together a couple of scripts. We'll go over the files and see whether they are large or not. So it's not that big deal. But this kind of scripting automation would definitely help you to and make your life easier and to perform those health checks faster. Restore test. So it's not only okay to confirm that the backups are actually being made. You need to confirm that and ensure that you actually can recover from those backups. This is something, of course, depends on your requirements, business requirements, but it is something that you probably want to execute not less often than twice per year. So every couple of months, you would like to take care of the restore test. And during this restore test, you want to go over the whole things that you may want to do with your backup. So let's say you are compressing your backup or encrypting it for security. You need to ensure that you can decompress and decrypt the files. If you you want to ensure that you can build MySQL and start new instance using this data. You need to ensure that you can slave it off the master or some other host in the replication topology. Basically, you want to ensure that you really the whole process is working and that you can actually use the backup, because it's not the worst case scenario. I mean, the nightmare of the DBA, everyone who cares about his data is that you think that you have a backup, but actually you don't, and this is really not a position that you may want to be in. And of course, disaster recovery plan. This is something you have to keep in mind. That you have to have one. Because the problem with with the recovery, and this is a stressful process. So you want to have a strict plan. You want to know how you like to perform this whole setup, whole process. So first of all, you want to store your backups outside of the main data center. That's somewhat obvious. To ensure that if the data center goes down, you still have a copy of your data. You probably want to assess the time needed for the recovery, to transfer the data to your data center and from the remote location, and then process it and recover. This is something because usually it's very important to be able to assess the damage that may cause. If, for example, the damage is, the recovery time is too long, it's not acceptable for a business, then you may want to redesign the backup process. And of course, as I mentioned, yes, you need to have prepared detailed runbooks, because when you're stressed, when you are under pressure, then people tend to make mistakes if they don't stick to simple instructions. And you really don't want to make any mistakes when you are playing with the last remaining copy of your data. And let's now talk about example setups. Basically, the whole process of designing the backup, the backups process, the backup method depends on your strategy, but depends on your business requirements, depends on your infrastructure, on your options that you have. So it's not like something you can take from here and use it for you. Most of we think that it's more like a building block that you can rely on and then build some more and adapt to your needs. But yeah, we try to just give you some idea of how it may work. So on premises, extra backup, full backup daily, and then incremental backup every 4 hours. This is something that should gives you a pretty decent recovery speed if needed. So you of course, I mean, if possible, you want to store the copy locally on a database node to speed up the recovery even faster, even more. Of course, you want to copy the data also to a backup server and store it for a couple of days, depending on your requirements. You need to ensure that you make a copy of binary logs because you want to perform a point-in-time recovery. If you can, if you can use a VM, that's even better. You can use it, but you have to keep in mind that all those things that you mentioned regarding the data consistency, and this kind of setup should be pretty okay in terms of the recovery speed because there's a one backup daily, full backup daily, couple of incremental backups which should be pretty fast to restore, and then if you need point-in-time recovery, then you won't have to process re-execute more than 4 hours of binary logs. If you have some additional server available, some additional slave, for example, some for ad hoc queries or something, you can use it to take logical backups out of it to speed up the exact data recovery. You can use it to set up a VM on it to take cold backups. So it just gives some more flexibilities. Of course, as I said, you have to have a spare server that can be used for this kind of process. It's not always the case. Amazon Web Services. So that's another example. In general, in Amazon, EBS snapshots are great unless you need to execute them too often. Of course, you have to keep in mind the consistency requirements that we were discussing earlier. Of course, and again, if you, for example, for some reason you want to have a backup every 10 minutes or every 5 minutes, I've seen such requirements, then you can do it, but not using EBS snapshot, but using extra backup. Extra backup and incremental, its incremental feature works just fine for this kind of setups. So if needed, you can take a backup even every 5 minutes. You may rely on the EC2 consistent snapshot to if you build the if you have write-it setup, or even if not, you can still use it to to ensure that MySQL is shut down for a cold backup, or there's a flash table with read lock executed, so you can rely on it one way or another. And of course, for a disaster recovery, you should ensure that you copy the snapshots to some other AWS region on a regular basis. Basically, you're just storing it offsite from US East to US West or otherwise. And again, if you have some spare slave, then you can use it to take a logical backup, or you can set up code backup on it. Up to you. It just makes things more easy for you to and it will give you more options. Of course, it comes with a price, but that's sometimes it just happens that you have a slave which can be used for this kind of things. And that is all from me here. Thank you very much for listening. We encourage you to take a look at the blogs in the remaining blocks in the becoming MySQL DBA series. And yeah, I think we still have a little bit of time for some questions. So back to you, JJ.